There are times that I become frustrated while reading books on the church that are written for pastors. I pastor a small church in River Ridge, Louisiana, and several books approach church structure or church growth or any church topic with the perspective that every church has at least 500 members and 7 or more people on staff. My church doesn't. And so I was a little nervous to start biblical counseling in the church, God's care through God's people. I expected this to be yet another book on how to start and manage a counseling ministry in your church when you already have paid counselors on staff. Instead, I found an informative book with instructions and wisdom for pastors and leaders for churches of all sizes and parachurch ministries, works of God in the US and around the globe. Editors Bob Kellerman and Kevin Carson lead the reader down a workable path to create churches that don't lean on a paid counseling staff, but churches where we are filled with members who are counselors. The team of writer was able to competently speak to pastors and leaders in churches small and large, missionaries serving overseas, and parachurch ministries who walk alongside local bodies. I found the information in the book to be clear. It was filled with step by step instructions on how to use a church's Sunday preaching ministry, small groups, and outside ministries to help create counselors out of members. They wrote about launching new ministries and sustaining or tweaking existing ones to empower individual members to build up one another in the Word of God. While I read the book from beginning to end, I wouldn't suggest that for most pastors or church leaders. I would encourage you that if you're going to start this book, spend some time in the table of contents before beginning and find those chapters that will be most helpful for your own context. For me, the chapters on uniting the public ministry of the word and the private ministry of the word, the tools to grow your church on small groups, and church discipline, and launching a counseling ministry in a smaller church, those were exceedingly helpful. At the same time, the chapter on launching a counseling ministry in a larger church, or ministry for churches of the nations, and biblical counseling the church and the academy, they weren't very helpful for my own content. That's not to say that biblical counseling in the church isn't something that you should get. This is a great toolbox for pastors and a book that every pastor should have on their bookshelf, or in my case, in your Kindle library. My favorite quote is, "Some of God's people sitting in Bible-believing churches have been objects of God's mercy and love for years. Maybe it's time for them to become instruments of God's love in the lives of others around them." All pastors want to see the members of their church become instruments of God's love to other people in the church and to the world around them. That's why we serve in these churches. And biblical counseling in the church helps to make our goal become our reality. So if you are considering growing your church's counseling ministry to impact your church and your community for Christ, if you want to help your members to become more empowered to share the mercy of Jesus with those who are around you, and you're not sure how to take the first step to accomplish those goals, biblical counseling in the church, God's care through God's people, will help you to take those first steps by faith to bring glory to Jesus Christ in your local assembly.